Hello, welcome back to the channel here. Another podcast episode. This will be the NHL bracket preview now that we've got it set up here. I'm joined with three of my good friends here. We got Luke, Alex, and Dylan, and we're all Wings fans for the most part. Obviously team one. So I'll let them quickly introduce themselves, a little background, and we'll start getting into it.
I guess I can go first. I'm Luke Zinn. I've grown up outside of Detroit my whole entire life, been a Wings fan my whole entire life. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, I'm Dylan. Same thing. Wings fan my whole life. Still play hockey, at least trying to, at least. So that's it.
Yeah, I'm Alex, Wings fan since day one. Played hockey whole life, so follow the game pretty closely.
Alrighty, yeah. So, usually I have a few differing opinion guys, but these are my closest hockey friends that know what the hell they're talking about. So we'll definitely have them give their impact here because, again, not the biggest hockey guy, but we're getting back into it as the Wings get good again. So I just thought we would start off with just some overall season thoughts, just some things that you guys thought stuck out, most important storylines, things like that. Obviously the Bruins are really good, but any other things that really stick out to you guys?
Are we doing winners or losers right now?
Just anything. Go for it.
I'll start off with my biggest loser. My biggest loser is Jonathan Huberdeau. In the 2021-2022 season, he had 115 points. In the 2022-2023 season, he had 55 points, which is the biggest point decrease for an NHL player in NHL history between two seasons. So I'm going with him as my biggest loser because he got a massive contract in Calgary and he hasn't really done anything to prove his value there after that big trade. And you look at Matthew Tkachuk still tearing it up in Florida. So that makes him my biggest loser, in my opinion.
Yeah, you got one end of the trade, the guy's an MVP candidate, and the other side, it's the biggest point drop off of all time. So that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
I'll spin it to some winners of the season. You got to go with the Boston Bruins this year. This is one of the best teams in the NHL in the past, maybe till 95, 96 Red Wings. There's a couple of Devils teams that could compete with them, but this is one of the best teams that we've seen in a while, just as far as depth and just goaltending all around play. 65 wins. I think they would they go after they finished with 65 wins in the season, which breaks the record. Just unbelievable accomplishment. Of course, though, it means nothing unless they produce in the postseason. But I think they're primed to do something here and make a run to the Stanley Cup.
Obviously the Bruins were best team in the NHL this year, 65 wins, like breaking the record. But one of the biggest losers that I found was, I think, the Washington Capitals. They have so many superstars. They have a Stanley Cup winning goaltender that they traded for, and they missed the playoff by a good margin. So, with the team that they had, I think with what they had, they couldn't have missed the playoffs. And I don't know how it happened, but overall, I just think that's my biggest loser of the year.
All right. And then how about the Edmonton duo here? So, you always talk about the best duos in sports, and, it's always like usually a quarterback receiver pairing, or it's like, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. I feel like McDavid and Draisaitl haven't been getting them as much love overall across other sports. Obviously, it is hockey. It's a little bit of a less reported sport, but you look at the point totals here, and these two are just head and shoulders above everyone else, and it's just kind of crazy. So, I guess how much of it is McDavid carrying Draisaitl, or if you think Draisaitl went to a different team, would he be able to put up a similar production?
I think his production would be close. I don't think it would be as much. As a lot of hockey fans, I think they would agree with me on this. Everybody, I think, kind of takes McDavid for granted. Like, they don't really know how good he is because he's insane. Just because he's doing this stuff every single night that makes him look like he's just this good, and everybody thinks it's just natural to him. But there's a lot of hard work that he puts in and all that stuff. And I don't think you really realize the impact he has on his teammates too, because it just seems so effortless for him to distribute the puck to other people. But with that said, I still think Draisaitl could put up this around the same type of numbers. I think he has the shot to do it. He has the hockey sense to do it. As you can see, like, he can score from behind the net when he knows where to bank it off the goalie's head, and he's that precise where he shoots the puck. So I think he could do it on other teams. It might not be the same production, but I still think he would break over 100 points.
I gotta agree. I think Drexel is a superstar in this league, even without McDavid. And also, I'd like to shout out Ryan Nugent Hopkins for back in 100 and joined that trio of the Edmonton there. They're just that power play is just it's the best power play in the NHL. I mean, you see it every night. It's out there. So that's why they get that point production up and yeah, just unbelievable force on the offensive side.
Yeah, I mean, McDavid just makes everyone around him so much better. But I still think Draisaitl is one of the top 5 players in the world right now. It's helping that he's playing with McDavid every night to get all these points. But if he went to any other team, I believe he'd do that. He could get 100 points again, no problem for him. He is that good, I believe.
And also, like, if you look at what Draisaitl did in the playoffs, like, he literally found a way to score on one leg and how to stop teams from the ground, but he couldn't skate. Like, he has the ability to adapt to any situation. So I think he would still be Draisaitl even without McDavid.
For sure. Yeah. So there's a few teams, that everyone thinks of when they think of, coming off of last year, I guess, looking at some of the better teams with what's it called? The Avs and the Lightning. Obviously, the Lightning are getting a bit older. They're not as higher up as, they've been in years past. They're going up against, Toronto. Obviously, we'll see if someone's streak's got to end there. And then with Colorado, right, they started off early, then they have a bunch of injuries and they've kind of gotten hot. Is there any teams you guys like before we get fully into the nitty gritty that you're like, a sleeper team or a favorite team you kind of like off the bat?
I guess they're not really a sleeper team, but Edmonton, they've been rolling since the trade deadline. I think they're like 16-2-1 last I saw. I think they played. No, they didn't play last night. So I think they're like 16-2-1, maybe 17-2-1 since the trade deadline, and they're just going. So I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run at it again this year, because last year they lost in the Western Conference Finals, and I think you can see in McDavid's play he's hungry. He got a taste and he wants more.
All righty. And then looking at, so again, semi-hockey casual, the President's Cup, is it President's Trophy curse? So, you look at like the NBA, it's almost statistically impossible for a 1 seed to lose, kind of like other, in basketball across the board, whether it be March Madness, obviously not this year, but you look at, the 1 seeds in basketball, it's pretty hard to upset them, whether it be in a 1 game or even anything, because in the NBA, a 1 seed sweeps almost every time. But it seems as though the President's Cup is like a huge curse. Do you think that'll happen this year, or is that just kind of a one-off thing, but they won it by so much that they kind of were able to keep focused?
I think it will. I think it's going to be a curse for them. I think even with the amount of depth they have, I don't think they'll make it past the conference finals. If they do, they'll win the cup. But if they don't make it past the conference finals, it's a bust year for them. It's so hard to break a record of wins and then go into the playoffs, and it's almost a different game. Like, it doesn't matter how many wins you have, how many losses you had, who's on other team. You're playing in the playoffs. It's playoff hockey. You're playing as hard as you can. Injuries could happen, so you never know what could happen. But if they can't get out of the Eastern Conference, I think it's a bust year overall for them.
Alrighty. So hate to do it to you guys, but we got to do a little bit of a Wings season recap here. I guess we'll kind of go around the horn here and, we can let everyone go nuts and see what's going on, whether you thought it was a successful season, unsuccessful season, it maybe things changed when the Wings got hot for a bit and then got bitched by Ottawa for a weekend. But I'll just let you guys go around the horn here and give us your thoughts on the season.
Okay, well, I guess the season really showed them what they really need to improve on. And I guess it also showed how far away they really are from actually competing in, like, going to the playoffs and not just being a first round sweep, and like actually going far in the playoffs. And I think Yzerman kind of realized what he needs to add. Like, he had an interview yesterday where he said we need to add more grit. And I think it was Lalone who said we need to have an offensive talent, because he admitted to being a lot more defensive minded this year, and their offense took some hits at that point. And they didn't really have that true offensive talent who can, like, dominate a game and take over a single game to really help propel them to the next level. And I think they really need that. And then with their grit aspect, Bertuzzi had grit, but I don't think he really fit the timeline. And to get the value for him that we got at the trade deadline, I think it was a good move to bring in a first rounder for him, because we are far away. We do need more picks. We need better prospects. Like, we do have one of the best prospect pools in the NHL, but we need that forward superstar, like that forward offensive power who can really propel us to the next level. And I think Casper is actually going to be able to replace Bertuzzi very easily in the future. When you saw him play against Toronto, he was always in the front of the net. He didn't shy away from that one scrum that involved him, Raymond, Sider, Edvinsson, and Kopp. He was in it all. He was there for everybody. He was driving to the net, doing what he could to disrupt the game, and just overall just playing dirty, kind of like Bert did. But I feel like he had a little bit more of an edge to him than Bertuzzi does.
Yeah, I agree with Luke. I think the season went about what we thought. I mean, for a second there, it looked like we could have made a run for the playoffs, and then yeah, with that Ottawa kind of back to back ended those hopes, and then the moves that he made just had to be moved. I mean, Bertuzzi was a going to be gone at the end of the season, free, and we would have been. I don't think we would have signed him or given the money that he wanted. So I mean, you had to get something for him. And then this, as far as other trades, I mean, we got good picks, and these next two drafts are crucial. And you can trade those picks for players. I doubt he does that. I think he's you just stick with the drafting, but that is also a possibility because we do need a top six, just dominant scorer, and then we just need depth in the back end with some more grit. I mean, we watched Kachuk brother just literally just dummy our entire team for 2 nights in a row. So I mean, you just can't in the playoffs. You can't let that happen. Like you're not going to get in. But I think we have a situation to go in the goaltending realm still. I mean, it was a problem last year, and it's a problem this year again. I think you have to put Neto back down. I mean, I don't know, maybe trade him, but I feel like it's just not going to work there. Yeah, so I mean, it's time to go. He won't even be returning. And then I think you sign Hellberg, and then just hope that in the future, we got Kosa down the pipeline. Hopefully he develops well, but yeah, the goaltending situation is still a bit iffy right now. And then just a little more depth and scoring on the front end is definitely something that we need to work on. But I'm happy with our prospect pool, and I think the season went about what I think most people thought. So I mean, not a bad year overall.
Yeah, not at all. I think exactly it went as everyone expected. We knew deep down we were not making playoffs. I mean, we got really hopeful there for a bit, but it was not meant to be. And it's probably better off that we didn't make the playoffs because then we'd be sitting there probably wild card 2 playing Boston first round. It would not have been good for us. So I think goaltending was definitely an issue. I don't know about Hellberg. I don't know if he's a right backup for the Red Wings right now. I think he's a good backup, but maybe not for the Red Wings, especially now. And yeah, just scoring overall. I mean, there were flashes of it. We'd score 5, 6, 7 goals a game, but we'd also let in 5 goals that same game. So it would still be a close game. I mean, we have flashes of what we can do. I mean, we're one of the 12 teams that beat Boston this year, and with Hellberg and that, which is kind of ironic. But this team just needs to add a little bit more scoring and find its solid 1-2 goalie matchup, and I think we'll be fine. I think our defense is there. Maybe add one more guy, but I think overall our decor is pretty solid. We just need to find that scoring, and I think we'll be right back in the playoffs where we should be.
Yeah, it's good to see because it's very interesting. Usually, what happens, I know, with rebuilding-ish teams, right? Like younger teams, they'll get a hot streak going, especially in a sport like hockey, where it's a big run sport. You see a lot in baseball too, and then you always, as soon as you start winning a few games in a row, getting close. Like I know, around Christmas time, we were kind of in the hunt, for a playoff spot. And then you kind of throw out your preseason predictions. You're like, all right, this is a team. Let's go crazy. So thankfully that they, didn't buy at the deadline because, I've seen plenty of times across many sports where teams just throw out their long-term plans for short-term glory and success. Like, I mean, think of the Pistons, they're on a good rebuild and then they go, oh, let's go get Blake Griffin. Let's throw away all of our future and let's go crazy. And then it sets the rebuild back a few years ago. So I know the trust the Yzer plan is kind of a joke almost on Twitter at this point, but it is nice to see that they've got some sort of leadership in a city that needs some front office help, especially outside of LCA. But it's good to see that they're on the right path, and that's what you guys all kind of think. So is there any not like a dream free agent, but is there like, if you could think of one guy you could add to this roster that would kind of take him to the next level, is there a guy out there that you could either trade for or sign? Is there just somebody out there?
McDavid.
Well, yeah, obviously, but you know what I mean? Like a guy that's kind of attainable. I mean, I heard that the DeBrincat kid from up in Ottawa. I don't know if that would make any sense, but
Bro, he's gonna get restricted free agent. They're gonna put that tag on him. His qualifying offer is at like 9 million, and then the Red Wings would have to give up like 2 first-round draft picks to sign him. Unless we'll trade for him, I might be able to say that. But a player I like is he's kind of old. He's 34 years old. Lars Eller. He's been to the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's won a cup, I believe. He knows what it takes to win. He's kind of that guy that you can throw in on a lower line, and like you can, because like you could see towards the end of the season, we essentially were throwing out AHL lines that are bottom 2 lines, and bring in a guy like him. You could bring him in on a 1-year deal, sign him. He could play depth. He knows what it takes. Granted, I don't think he would really want to come to Detroit because I think he's late enough in his career where he wants to compete and win. But like a guy like him, where you bring him in, he can play towards the bottom end of the lineup, teach these young guys. He's reliable. He kills penalties very well. He can do all that small things that then takes a lot of pressure off of the top 2 lines to be able to do more offensively than they would have to do defensively. Just like a guy like that. And then I think a backup goalie is somebody we also need to sign. There's a lot of options out there. I really don't know who would really be that enticed to come to Detroit, knowing the goalie situation. And because you see the last 2 offseasons, the last 2 out of the 3 offseasons, Eisman made a trade before free agency started he traded for Nedeljkovic. He gave up a 2nd-round pick in Bernier to get Nedeljkovic's early negotiating rights. And then he did the same thing with St. Louis and Ville Husso. So I could also see him making a trade like that again, where if he sees a goalie that he wants that's going to free agency, he might make that trade to get him earlier just so he doesn't hit the market. But I don't know. We'll see what he does.
all righty. So thought we'd now let's hop into the bracket here. We'll start east to west here. The first series I got up here is Bruins Panthers. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the Bruins. They're currently minus 360 doing the series. Panthers plus 280, which is pretty heavy considering what I've seen in past years with favorites and such. Any thoughts and insight on this series? Does Florida have a chance? Obviously, I know they were pretty good last year. They got smoked in the first round as well, but offensively, is there any chance they could catch the juggernaut Bruins lacking?
I think it'll be hard, but I think they do have a chance. I mean, they got hot at the end of the year. I mean, after Kachuk's dad kind of made some comments, they seemed to light a fire under the team, and they kind of turn it on. I think if they play a more physical game than Boston, I think they'll have a good chance. But overall, I mean, Boston should have this one in 5-6 games. It should just be the warm up for Boston, really. I mean, Florida they're not going to be a pushover, but it's not going to be easy for them, especially with who's their starting goalie still, Reimer.
No, it's what's his name?
Oh, Bobrovsky, yeah.
I think Bobrovsky's.
Oh, really?
I think it's Alex.
Yeah, all right. Then yeah, I don't see this going past 6. Yeah, I don't see the series going past 6.
I think
which I think really hurts them not having Sam Bennett. He's one of their strong top 6 forwards. But I actually think the series will go to 7 games. I think
I don't see it.
I just think the matchup is heavily favored for Boston. The way Florida plays, it's like Boston will just eat it up. I think they maybe 5, but I can see a sweep.
All righty. Now looking at the other Atlantic matchup, kind of we mentioned earlier, this is a lot of eyes on this series. The Lightning obviously coming off of one of the better playoff runs in recent history, and you've got the Maple Leafs. Now I don't have the exact stat, but I believe they haven't won a first round series or gotten out of the first round in over a decade. Is that correct?
I believe it. A decade.
Okay, well,
more.
A lot of I heard it's more. Yeah. So a lot of pressure on here with the Leafs and the Lightning. Leafs come in as a minus 150 favorite, so a little bit over about 60% win percentage there. Thoughts on this series? Did they finally get the monkey off their back?
Going to 7.
Yeah, it's going 7.
I think
no other option.
I think Toronto takes it in 7. I think the thing that helped Tampa last year was just their playoff experience. But you can see their big trade. Tampa's big trade at this deadline was Tanner Jeannot, and he's hurt. So, I mean, like in Toronto, loaded up with Ryan O'Reilly, who should be back for the playoffs. They really strengthened their D core and made them deeper, which was something I feel like hurt them in the past couple seasons. They didn't really have that D core to match up with Tampa's. And then Tampa, I also think trading away Ryan McDonough last year to Nashville is something that I don't think people really realize how much they miss him until the playoffs start, because him and Hedman would essentially play every single situation. Like at the end of the game, they were out there if they needed a goal. If they were defending a goal, those two didn't really leave the ice in the last 2 minutes. And I think the importance of McDonough is really going to show in this series and how much they miss him.
Yeah, I go Toronto too. I think they make it out finally. I mean, they have to as an organization and as a front office. They have to. I just think goaltending wasn't there in the past, and they're getting it this year. I mean, the postseason is different, but if they get the same numbers that Samsonov has been putting up, and then this new guy, this Wall, I mean, I doubt he plays much, but he's played a couple of games and he's looking real solid. I mean, if somehow Samsonov doesn't go a game and you have him to back up, you do feel a little bit better. But I mean, I think goaltending that they have this year and they have in the past is the reason why they make out the first round.
Yeah, I think I agree it's going 7, but I think it's going to Tampa. I think their experience is still going to come into play. They still have Vezina winning goaltender Vasilevsky in that. I mean, he knows how to do this. He's done it last year. He's done it a few times before that, and obviously he's got a few cups to show for it. So I hope Toronto can win this series, but I just don't see it happening. And if it doesn't happen, I think some of the players there will be frustrated and might start looking outward.
One of the interesting things for this series actually is forward Matthew Nyes from University of Minnesota. He just signed with Toronto. He can play all the playoffs and not burn a year of his entry-level contract. So it will be interesting to see if they use him, because he's a big body. He knows how to play physically. If they use him to strengthen the bottom 6 forward. So that'll be interesting to see if they use this young guy in this lineup against this team that's been to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, the finals the past 3 years. So
and he'll have energy. He'll be buzzing out there. He'll be ready to go. So
new blood into the lineup too.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good to see, because I know last year was a huge, it went 7, right? And they won in overtime, the Lightning, I believe. So
yep.
We'll see if they can finally do it. That'd be pretty interesting. But just kind of staying in this quadrant, I guess we can go hypothetical matchup here. Looking at the Leafs and the Bruins, I guess we would say, because kind of the consensus of the group here. Do we think that if the Leafs finally make it out of the first round, that could be such a motivating factor that they kind of carry it?
This is actually the series I want to see the most, just because the last time the Leafs were close to winning a first round series was when Boston came back in 13 minutes in the third period to win it. So I want to see this matchup. Also, these teams just hate each other in general. So I would love to see this matchup. I think it's an interesting one because Boston's defense is a lot stronger and their goaltending is a lot stronger. It's essentially the same thing with the Toronto-Tampa matchup, where Tampa's defense is more experienced, knows what they're doing, and it's probably a lot better than, like, their top guy is a lot better than Toronto's top guy. But I think Toronto's forwards in this matchup might be able to counteract Boston's forwards. So this one I don't really know. I would want to go with Toronto, and I'm going to go with Toronto, but I'm not too sure. This is a matchup I really want to see.
Yeah, this is probably really one of the closest ones, at least in the second round. It's 2 good teams, but I think Boston edges them out. I mean, I can see Toronto if they get out of the first round that they just go, but I just think Boston it's just too much, especially because, I mean, I'm assuming that if Tampa Bay is going to go 7, and I think Boston gets it done early, that does the time off for Boston, it can either hurt or help. So there's 2 schools of thought on that, which can affect the start of the series. But I think Boston settles in, and it's gonna be a good matchup. But I think they do take down the Leafs in the second round.
Yeah, if the Leafs do get out, I think Boston should handle them easily, because I think the Leafs will be so banged up from the Lightning. The Lightning are not gonna sit back and just lose a series, and they know how to win their series. So that'll be a brutal first round matchup. And if whoever gets out of that and has to play Boston right after that, I feel bad for it, because they're not going to be ready. They're going to be tired. They're going to be banged up. And Boston's probably going to come off of not too hard of a series with Florida. And Boston has so much depth that if one guy goes out, they got another guy just to replace him right back in. So I mean, I can see Boston getting through the first 2 rounds easily because even though whoever they play, Tampa, Toronto in the second round, they're going to be a lot more tired. They're not going to be ready for Boston.
All righty. Looking at the Metropolitan Conference, again, these hockey conferences make me very confused how all these New York teams aren't playing Boston, but we're playing some Florida teams. But, I digress. Hurricanes and Islanders. So I guess as a Wings fan here, I'd be rooting for the Hurricanes. We have the Islanders pick, get it higher up. Let's keep that going. But Hurricanes about -200 coming as a pretty big favorite here. They've been really, really, really good the last few years. Kind of, I guess, coming out of nowhere from a casual standpoint like myself. But Islanders, Hurricanes, who you guys got here?
I actually have the Islanders.
I as well have the Islanders too. So
I think Carolina's missing 2 important pieces for their playoff run in Andrei Svechnikov and Max Pacioretty. Combined, that's approximately 80 plus regular season goals between those 2 guys. And that's a lot to try and replace, especially in the playoffs. And just having those 2 guys is kind of important because you go down their lineup, they're 2 big parts of their lineup. They kind of need those guys. And there's not really anybody who can step in and take those roles. I think they've done a good job of people coming in and stepping in those roles and maintaining what they're doing. But I just think that missing those 2 guys come playoff time is really going to hurt them. Also, the Islanders, I believe, are getting Matthew Barzal back finally, and he's been injured for a good portion of the end of the season, and they still push to the playoffs without him. I also think that this matchup really relies on the goaltending, and I think Ilya Sorokin is a lot better than Frederik Andersen or Antti Ranta. I do not know which one has been playing more for the Hurricanes this year, but I have a feeling that Sorokin is really going to carry this matchup for the Islanders and really help them.
yeah, I think the Islanders get upset as well due to the fact that they play playoff hockey all year round. I mean, they're not even changing the game up. I mean, playoff hockey in a close game, 1-goal game. I mean, the Islanders are so used to being there that it's just they'll edge them out just on that because of just the style of play, the close games, and Sorokin, the way he plays. I just think that it's gonna be tough. I mean, Carolina's a tough team, but I think Islanders they just play their game. Will get the upset in the series, but it's gonna be a close one. I think it's in 7.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a long series, but I think Islanders will edge it out. I think they're better defensively overall, and then their goaltending is obviously one of the best in the league. So if they obviously won't really change much with their play style. I mean, they've been playing well here at the end of the year too, just to get in. So I think it'll be a good series. It won't be. I don't think it'll be as exciting as Toronto, Tampa, or maybe, but it'll be a good series.
Perfect. So last round, first round matchup here. We're gonna have an unbelievable matchup in terms of the New York metropolitan area. Devils, Rangers, obviously big storyline for me as a Michigan fan here. Luke Hughes comes in, first game-winning goal, overtime, love it. Devils, Rangers. So yeah, Rangers, I said this earlier in my other hockey podcast. Rangers, they got a billion names. They kind of remind me like the Lakers, where they've just got casual guy like me. I can name 20 hockey players, and it seems like 10 of them are on the Rangers. They just got such a stacked lineup. And then the Devils were tanking with us a few years ago, and now they're a 100-point team. So it's interesting to see here. We've got the Devils as a -120 favorite, Rangers +110. Super tight series. Who you guys got here in the battle in New York?
I can take this one first, I guess. I got the Rangers pulling it out. I mean, I think the Rangers are just a solid. I mean, they have the players to win it. They have the goalie to win it, and they got the Patrick. You got these guys have been there before. Like Patrick Kane, he's a Stanley Cup winner. I mean, and the way that Panarin's playing as the Bedjad, it's just hard to stop that team right now. And I think this Devils team is a really good team. I just think the inexperience is what's gonna be the downfall. I mean, they buzz, but I just think these guys are young, and in a long series against a team like the Rangers, I just think they wear them down. But it's gonna be a fun series for sure.
I think Shesterkin is going to be the difference maker for the Rangers here. Just like, I mean, like Vita Vanacek for the Devils has been very good this season. He's been absurd. I think this is the most games he's played, and it's like the most wins he's had in a single season. He really has carried them like in net this whole entire season. They started off rough. They started off actually really rough. People were chanting to fire Lindy, and then they kept going, and then they all want him back. And I do think that the moves that the Rangers make will be the difference maker in this series, such as Kane, bringing in Kane and Tarasenko to really strengthen that top six. And just because their defense is good no matter what, I feel like as long as they can stay healthy and they're a physical team, they're not afraid to throw around the body. They will do what they need to do to get you off the puck and scare you from going into the corners and stuff. So I really think that mixed with the Devils being young and the Rangers just having so much experience is going to make it hard for the Devils.
Yeah, I agree. I think Devils have the talent to do it. I just don't think they have the experience. I think they're a little too young. I think the Rangers' experience will probably push them over the edge and beat out the Devils here. But I think, yeah, with adding Kane and Tarasenko, you got cup winning guys who know how to do it coming in and kind of helping lead this team through the playoffs would be huge. So plus they went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, so they know how to get through it.
All right, sounds good. And now we'll get into the second round here. So yeah, looking forward here. The second round matchup based on our predictions here would be another New York matchup here. Islanders, Rangers. You thought the New York was going to be fun with the Devils and the Rangers. Islanders, Rangers, man, that's going to have New York buzzing, with the Knicks in the playoffs as well. It's a good time to be in New York. But who you guys got in this hypothetical Rangers-Islanders second round matchup?
Rangers. No questions, Rangers. Rangers for 5. That's all I got.
I'm taking the Island.
There you go.
Yeah, no, we're going Rangers. Simple as that.
Your mom's gonna get mad at you, Alex. Gotta go with the Rangers.
Yeah, well,
Islanders.
I mean, I picked the team that I think's gonna win here. Put your allegiance aside.
Not influenced there. All right, and then I guess we'll just quickly do the hypothetical matchup there. Rangers versus, I guess we would say what, Bruins, right? Yeah, Rangers Bruins would be a absolute hell of a matchup there in the Rangers Bruins in the Stanley Cup or Eastern Conference Finals. New York, Boston, they seem to battle in every sport. This would be a hell of a matchup here. Who you guys got in a potentially all-time series?
Rangers. I think Boston's path to get to that point is very tough because they have to play Florida and then they have to play the winner of Toronto, Tampa, which is just a terrible matchup for the President's Trophy winners. I feel like if they do get out of the first round, having to play one of those two teams in the second round is probably really going to take a toll on them. And I feel like the Rangers, if they do get past the Devils and then they have to play the Hurricanes or the Islanders, I feel like that's a bit easier of a course and less toll on their bodies. They'll be a little bit more upbeat, I feel like.
Plus, they're doing zero travel basically if they play Devils and Islanders. They're not flying anywhere.
Yeah.
They're literally just going right across the bridge both times.
Staying at home, sleeping in your same bed, that helps, I would imagine.
That does really help.
Yeah.
No long flights.
I also don't think Boston has what it takes to win it all. I think they got to go at some point. I don't think their goaltending's strong enough in the playoffs.
All right.
I think Boston win that one, but I think if they get that far, they're gonna go to the Stanley Cup. But I mean, I can see the upset too. So
yeah, I agree with the upset, but Bruins have to win it. I can't see any other solution, but Bruins. I'd probably cheer for the Rangers, but I see Bruins winning.
All righty. Now, looking over at the Western playoffs, let's see which way we could do this bracket. I guess we'll just start with the Central Division. First up, the 1-seeded Avalanche, after winning last night, they got the 1 seed going up against the Michigan man-led Kraken. We've got Colorado as a -230 favorite, Kraken +190. Expansion teams they're making expansion teams look real good in the NHL. With the Kraken, it's their second year in the league, and they're already in the playoffs, which is very, very, very good. Does Matty Beniers and the Kraken have any chance against the wagon that is the Avs?
I think they have a better chance now that Landeskog is out for the playoffs. That's really going to hurt Colorado.
If you told me last week asked me that last week, Kraken or Avalanche, I would have said Avalanche in 4, but Landeskog being out is a big issue for the Avalanche. But I still see Avs winning this in probably 6
I
games.
think
There's
Avs
zero.
too good.
I see the Landeskog injury come into play later down the road, but in
Yeah.
this series, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Is he out the entire playoffs or is it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Entire.
Fair enough. Yeah, because I know he's one of their best guys. I know the Avs just got dudes everywhere. They got the what's it called? It's not Taves, is it? How do you pronounce that name? Is it just Taves?
Taves.
Yeah,
Devin
and then
Taves.
McKinnon's unbelievable. I remember I was watching the game against the Blues last year when he just walked through the entire team. I was like, all right, that's pretty good. So
And since Landeskog's been injured, Rantanen has really stepped up to take
Yep.
to take a bigger role, and he's
yeah,
really
I
he
was
the driving force to get them into the playoffs. I feel like,
looking at the stats,
And
and
we
he was
know
one of the top scorers in the league, right, Rantanen?
yeah,
and we
Crazy.
know how
And
McKinnon is as a
will be
leader
back for
too.
playoffs.
Yep.
him and
So-
Tate probably the best defense line in the NHL.
Have they figured out the goalie at all? I know the Kemper guy last year, I guess everyone, mostly being you guys, were kind of like he's a little shaky, a little iffy. Obviously, still won, but have they upgraded it at goaltender?
Yeah, they had Georgiev.
Yeah. I think they definitely upgraded.
I don't think Gorgiev's better than Kemper.
I think he's a little better, but it's almost the same situation.
Okay, so that could come into play down the line. The next matchup, we have the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild. If you guys listen to my, you guys being the audience, you listen to the other podcast, you know, my good friend Aiden is a massive Wild fan. I was talking about him all year. He likes where they're at now, but Wild are a plus 108 favorite or plus 108 underdog. Stars minus 125. Another real tight series here. Who do you guys like in this matchup?
I think Dallas. I think they got more experience than the Wild. The Wild have the better goaltending experience in Fleury, I feel like, but last year they didn't really play him in the playoffs. They played the other guy, and that was I think it was Talbot or was it Forsberg? I think it was Talbot, and that really I think messed them up. I feel like they got a little bit better this year. I think the Greenway trade might hurt them just because he added an aspect to their lineup that they kind of need in like the grit, and then they brought in Oscar Sundqvist, but I'm pretty sure Sundqvist is hurt. And same with another one of their key players is also hurt. I feel like Dallas just has that top line at Dallas is something else. That Robertson, Hintz, and Pavelski line. I feel like that's just absurd. And Ottinger too. He can steal a series for you if he needs to.
Good.
Yeah.
I'd probably go with Dallas in 6.
I go Dallas too. I mean, I think in 7. I think Minnesota's gonna put up a fight. I think Fleury can keep him in any series, assuming he's playing like at his top game. But yeah, Dallas is just a better team here.
Yeah, I agree. I say Dallas in 6. I think Andrews playing at a level that's a little above Fleury right now, and that top line of Dallas is something else to watch. So Minnesota's not going to be a pushover, but Dallas in 6.
All righty. Up next, we've got the final division here. Actually, I guess we'll do the matchup of the Central still because we got it going. The Stars and Avs. What do we think on that one?
I'm taking the Stars. I feel like I got a good
Taking
feeling.
the Stars.
Taking the Stars too.
Oh, all
Stars.
righty. Is there a reason why it would be so easy? I feel like,
I
that
feel like
kind of
this
surprised me just right off the bat.
This is kind of the series where I feel like the Avs would need Landeskog. So, because like you look at who the Stars have down, like in their forward core, like they got Jamie Benn, who's a big body, who can like physically outmuscle a lot of their defensemen. And I feel like the Avs defensemen, like their top line, aren't particularly the most aggressive guys. And even going down, I feel like besides Johnson, I feel like there's not really a lot of Avalanche defensemen who can really throw the body and play like that way. I guess Manson can, but that's like a couple guys. And I feel like the Stars forward core is very nitty gritty. They'll hit, even their first line goes and hits. Like Pavelski really leads the charge. And I feel like this is the kind of series that Pavelski can just totally dominate for them and really help.
I agree. I think just without those injuries for the Avalanche, it's gonna hurt them in this series, and it's gonna be exposed. I mean, I think it's gonna be another close one, but I think Dallas edges them out just because of how well their top line's been producing, and injured in the back. I mean, it's a well-rounded team.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dallas has us won 6 games, maybe. I think the way Dallas's offense works, it'll tear apart Georgiev, and there will be not much that Colorado can do, especially without Landeskog. I think it'll just be a good series for Dallas.
Also, I feel like Colorado's going to be a bit banged up with the way that Seattle plays.
Yeah.
All right, unanimous stars coming out of the Central Division. Now, moving farther west over the Pacific, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights going up against the Winnipeg Jets. Vegas -160, Winnipeg +140. Can the Jets upset the Knights, or will the Knights in their absolutely electric pregame intros continue?
I got Vegas in 6, so I think Winnipeg's a solid team, and Hellbuck is a solid goaltender. I just think that they've been very inconsistent this year, and it's just sometimes you just see them play, and it's just you don't know. They don't look like that team, and then sometimes they are. It's just I think the inconsistency is going to hurt them. And Vegas has been pretty consistent with their play, and Eichel's having a year, and I just think it's enough to get them past the Jets.
Yeah, I agree. Eichel's having a great year right now. He's scoring a lot of goals, and plus Logan Thompson kind of came up when Leonard went down, and he's been playing unreal. I mean, he's really the backbone of that team right now, and helping get them across the line. I think, is he still hurt, or
Yeah, I can check.
I don't know who's starting for game 1, but I mean, even Jonathan Quick, he might be a little old, but he still knows how to do it. So first round, at least, I got Vegas.
I'm actually going with Winnipeg. I think Hellbuck pulls it off. It's also interesting to see. This is going to be Jack Eichel's first year in the playoffs, his whole entire career. So nobody's ever seen him on this stage. So who knows if he's going to step up his game, if he can play in this level and do what he needs to do, or what he's been doing the whole season, if he can keep it up. But I also just think Winnipeg's just absolutely rolling right now. I think Hellbuck could be the Vezina winner if it wasn't for Allmark. I think Allmark should win that award, but I think Hellbuck's just been playing amazing. And I think just Winnipeg's depth up front is a little bit better than Vegas with Mark Stone out. And just, I really think it's Hellbuck series to win or lose for Winnipeg.
I do like seeing the Eichels in the playoffs. Being in Buffalo at the moment, every once in a while here for work. I mentioned the name Eichel once, and I got something thrown at me. I didn't realize I hate this guy so much. I was trying to go to the game real bad, the game where he made his first debut back with the Knights. But that was the first time I've seen tickets almost more expensive than Detroit tickets. Usually, I can go to a Sabres game for like $10-15. It was touching 3 figures for the last row in the stadium there, and it was absolutely electric, I was told. So I wouldn't mind some chaos and seeing Vegas and him go nuts. So would love to see that one. Moving into the second highest favorite here in the West, we've got the Oilers -225, Kings +190. Kings are kind of one of those other teams where they've been real good for stretches and then kind of come back down to earth, and now I guess are real good again. I'm just thinking of other teams in the higher lottery positions with the Wings, and I'm seeing them all in the playoffs. It's just making me a little sad, not gonna lie, but there looks like they're running into the juggernaut that is the Oilers. Is there any chance for the Kings to make this interesting?
I think this series goes to 7.
Yeah.
All right.
I see it going long, but Edmonton should have it.
Yeah.
I think they get done 5.
I just think
buzzing.
McDavid's hungry, and it's
Just
just
buzzing.
yeah.
Mhm.
The one thing that Edmonton really needs is Stuart Skinner's been amazing all year. He really needs to keep that up. And if he can, I think that would really help Edmonton. If they do go with Skinner, I don't know if they're going to go with him or Campbell, but
They should go with Skinner.
yeah. I also think LA's a bit too young of a team. Like, they still have Kopitar and Doughty, who have won 2 cups with them, and they know what they're doing, and I think they can lead, but I just think they're a little bit too young, too inexperienced. I also think Edmonton's speed might be a little bit too much for LA to handle, but we'll see.
Yeah, it says on here they got the odds at it going 6 games. So I guess I'll kind of line up what we were thinking here. The next round matchup, Oilers Golden Knights. That seems like it would be quite an interesting series to watch. Who do we like in this one here?
I'm going with the Oilers.
I'm going Oilers too. I think it's their year.
I think I could flip a coin on it, but I'll play devil's advocate and go Vegas.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
I'm just looking at, Vegas's goalies, and I don't really see. I'm assuming they're probably going to go with Logan Thompson.
Mhm.
I don't really see him stopping McDavid and Draisaitl in the way that they've been
Yeah.
going.
It would. I don't think they would. I think Vegas would have to put basically man on man McDavid at least, but then there's still Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins to deal with, so it would be tough. But
And
I can
Evander
see it
Kane's
happening. But
good.
if I were to actually choose, I'd probably pick the Oilers. But
Somebody's got to be different.
So yeah, looking forward, I guess, to a hypothetical Western Conference Finals here. I guess it would be Stars Oilers. I guess would be the consensus here.
Yeah.
Edmonton has the second best odds to win the West, so they'd be favored in this. And how does home ice work in the conference finals? Is it just better regular season record?
It's whoever is higher in that conference.
Okay, so that would be, let's see here.
Well, I think it would go seed, but then since they're the same,
Oilers got a point higher, so
Oilers.
I'd imagine they'd have home ice. So
Yeah.
Oilers would be hosting the Stars. Who do we like in that matchup?
going with Edmonton.
Yeah.
McDavid gets to the finals.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Now that would set up, what would that be? Edmonton versus the Rangers in the Stanley Cup, I believe, based on our consensus little bracket here. That'd be very interesting. I mean, the narratives there alone, they're New York can finally win a title. They've got like 15 pro sports and haven't won anything in a decade, which is, hate to see that with all my New York friends. But then you got the Oilers. I feel like the game of hockey, there might be a little bit of home cooking. I don't know if you can officiate a team like that, because in basketball, the officials have a huge influence in the game and everything. I feel like the league office would love not only a Canadian team winning, their poster boy, golden child, McDavid winning a cup. I feel like there'd be a nasty whistle in favor of Edmonton, who already know has a good power play. But in a hypothetical Stanley Cup matchup there, what do you guys think would be the difference? And what would your predictions be there?
I would have to go with the Rangers.
Okay. The big Oilers fan, Luke, has gone with the Rangers. Well, why would you say that?
I just feel like their experience on the Rangers is so much. And I feel like McDavid and Draisaitl are just going to be targeted all in playoffs like they were last year. And it's just Shesterkin too. I feel like with having Shesterkin and that, the Rangers will have an extra confidence boost. And also the East, in my opinion, is so much harder to get out of. And I feel like the winner who gets out of the Eastern Conference will just be absolutely buzzing come in the finals. And I don't know, I feel like just having a line with like Panarin, Kane, and Kreider, or you have Zibanejad on that line, and then your second line has like Tarasenko on it too, and then you just keep going down like Barkey, Goudreau, and they're just deep at forward, and then their defense is also deep too. So I feel like the depth is there for the Rangers, because I feel like the third lines and the fourth lines really show up more in the Stanley Cup Finals and all the playoffs in general. And I feel like those lines are better for the Rangers.
I think the East beats themselves up a little too much, and they just don't have enough steam to take on the Oilers and the speedy Connor McDavid. I think Oilers get it done this year, beating the Rangers in the Stanley Cup. I just think that East is just going to be a dogfight, and whoever gets out is just not going to have the stamina to keep going. I mean, it's going to be war every series, every game in that East. And I think that they just kind of beat up on themselves a little too much, and allows for the Oilers to snatch the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I think honestly, I'm going to say Rangers. I think it will be an advantage if they get to play Devils, Islanders, and then only have to go up to Boston, when Edmonton will have to go all the way to Vegas, Dallas, teams like places like that. They got to go to LA all the way to LA in their first round. So that's a lot of travel for a team. Plus, every team knows they need to shut down McDavid and Draisaitl mainly. So they're going to target them. They're going to make them tired. They're going to try to get them off their game every single night. And if one of them goes down, then I think Edmonton's chances kind of dwindle in half. I think if they get through the conference final and maybe one of them goes down going into the finals, I can't see them pulling out more than two, maybe one game.
All righty. So that will wrap up our bracket prediction there. Based on odds, you can get yourselves 12-1, the Rangers winning it all, or Edmonton at 9-1. Some good picks there. Crazy that the Bruins are plus 340, but looks like we have them going out a little bit early here. I would just do a quick little look ahead at free agency if there's any big names coming up. I was going to say some draft talk, but it seems like it's pretty set in stone. Bedard 1, Fantilli 2. Is that kind of
Yeah, and then probably
Yeah.
Leo Carlson, the Swede 3.
any teams you guys think are going to win the lottery? Is there any home cooking? Do you think they'll probably maybe give Chicago somebody with them losing their two face of their franchise, walk in with one of these two?
Gary's giving it to Arizona. He's gonna pull the strings.
So yeah, I was talking about that earlier. So with the way it works with the NBA is it's been not openly rigged, but it's pretty seen to be rigged. Anytime a team is under sale or going to be sold, they win the lottery. So the last time it happened was 2 years ago with the Timberwolves jumping all the way up to 1, with the Hornets potentially being sold with Michael Jordan. Unfortunately, they'll probably win the lottery. Is there any shenanigans there, you think? Maybe that's kind of would help. Arizona, it's like, oh, they're playing in a college rink. They're doing all this stuff. If they get a guy like Bedard, that would really probably help
The only
someone come in and buy him.
theory I have there is that Gary Bettman's project when he became commissioner was expanding hockey in the South and the West, and his baby project this whole entire time has been the Coyotes. And with how much it's been struggling, a player like Bedard would really help with their ticket sales, I feel like, and potentially getting out. But it's been a terrible situation for them. Somebody just vandalized the hotel Gary Bettman was going to for a conference to talk about the Coyotes getting a new arena and stuff. So it's very hard there. And I feel like with it being his project, if there were to be any swings in that way, it would definitely go towards Arizona.
Okay, I like that. I always love a little good sports conspiracy. I really like that. So, and I was saying what my good friend Aiden was saying is, maybe we like an Anaheim type deal, pair, Zegras up with one of the other kids. But looking forward again to free agency real quick. Is there any big names we should know about that are coming up, and any quick predictions if that is even on anyone's mind right now?
Well,
there's a lot of big names in free agency this year. Patrick Kane, Taves, obviously, Ryan O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Klinberg, Pacioretty, Sean Monahan. I mean, this is going to be a big year for free agency. I think maybe a lot of these guys might just resign, but there's a lot of big names on these lists.
It would be hard for the Rangers to re-sign Kane and Tarasenko. They have $11 million in cap space, and Andre Miller's a restricted free agent, so they have to get him signed too. And he's a big part of their defense. And he's young; he's 23, I believe. So he's a big part of their future as well. So I don't really see them sacrificing him to bring in Tarasenko and Kane. The only way I could see Tarasenko or Kane staying after they get Andre Miller signed is if they were to take a discount, which I could see potentially Kane doing if he's enjoyed playing there so far. But who knows? That's the one problem with the Rangers re-signing their players is they have very little cap space to do so.
All right. So the real question for casuals like myself, who's wearing the winged wheel out of that big list? Anybody? Is Stevie a big free agent guy, or is that not really happening?
I think you get a draft.
I could see another free agent is Alex Killorn.
Oh, yeah, I like him.
I could see him. Stevie signed him in Tampa, but the problem is he's old. He's not really as effective, and he's probably going to get a big contract because he's been on these Tampa teams that have been to the last 3 Stanley Cup finals. So, it's because Tampa can't afford him. Most likely won't be able to re-sign him. And I think the history there with Eisman is a reason he could potentially come to the Wings, but I don't know how Wings fans would really feel about that. There's a lot of people who are for it, and then there's a lot of people who are against it because of his age, and his production has been decreasing.
All right.
I think honestly we're just going to focus more on the draft than free agency. I can see Killorn, but I mean, we're not really a team to make big signings like that. So,
all right, here, gun ahead time. We've already done our predictions here. You go forward 3 years in advance and you look back at the Stanley Cup playoffs, the last 3 seasons, what does the Wings' future look like the next 2 years, 5 years, etc.?
We're not touching it for, I think, 4 more years.
I agree. I think maybe we get the second wild card spot one of those years out of a win, but I think we'll be right where we are right now for the next few years.
There
I
has
think,
been
I think it
progress.
depends on development. I mean, it's hard to tell with some of these young guys down the pipeline how quick they develop. So in that sense, it could be longer, it could be shorter. But I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a couple years for sure. I think we touch playoffs. If not next year, then 2 years.
That bad, huh? I was super excited for you all to be like, oh, we're going to be in the playoffs next year, winning a series in 2
We got
years.
a lot of time and a lot of ways to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you guys at least like the direction they're building? Is it a solid foundation for a long-term run, or what do you guys think there?
Guys who can skate.
Hmm?
They're big guys who can skate on the defense, which helps. And then we need forwards.
Yeah, I think we need to focus more on forwards.
We need a first line center
Our
too.
defense is young and good.
Yeah. All righty. Well, a little bit more of a depressing end, but that's okay. Thank you guys for joining. Any closing thoughts, prediction things you want out there in advance? Any crazy stories or anything?
I would like to point out Bruins is not my Stanley Cup final pick, or even to make it out of the second round, I think I said.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a good one. Any other closing thoughts from Alex or Dylan?
Didn't we say Bruins in finals?
Huh?
We sent Rangers to the finals.
Okay, I thought we went to Bruins in finals.
Oh, we had Rangers beat Bruins in the Western.
Conference finals.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not going there.
No.
All righty. Well, thank you guys again for joining. I'll probably get these guys on maybe for a quick Stanley Cup preview, a little shorter, 20-minute style, something like that, or maybe a playoff recap, something. Or if there's breaking news when the Wings trade for McDavid this offseason, we'll figure it out. We'll fleece that bum of a GM out there, and we'll see what happens down the line. But again, thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you all next time.
All right.
Thank you.